Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle. I'm back with Mike and Jay.
Notorious Scoundrels Groundhog Edition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say what's up, gentlemen, but we haven't really left from where we recorded 5 minutes ago, which, if you're listening to this, was last week. So, but this will be part 2 of our Jedi/Sith episode. And we're going to basically just go through and hot take all the Jedi and rank them and Sith.
Yep.
And then briefly discuss Force upgrades and stuff. Although we are also doing Commander and Operative slots for these various factions, which we will also do this. So I don't feel like we need to spend quite as much time on each of these.
Yeah. Want me to do some housekeeping before we get going?
Yes, I would love some housekeeping.
All right.
I was like, I would love to hear housekeeping for the second time tonight.
So I mean, listen, I want to say this again for all of you. Number one, thanks for listening. We appreciate that. If you do want to support us, if you do want us to be able to bring you all this great content, you can join us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can get our third podcast, After Dark, where we kind of talk about what's going on behind the scenes at the Fifth Trooper. We elaborate more on the conversations that we have here. We do theory crafting. The conversation really can go in all kinds of directions because it's just kind of unfiltered and on our Patreon for our Patreon members only. And so not only that, if you go into any of our tiers, we do have, support rewards that we send out. We try to send out every quarter. And we've done stuff like laser cut. We did our own laser cut barricades and terrain that we've sent out. This quarter, actually, at certain levels, they're going to actually we're doing hostage minis with custom cards. And so I think there's just amazing things that we try to give to all our Patreon supporters, and it helps us. Mike and I are here in my studio, and we have an extra mic for Mike. And so that's because of our Patreon supporters. And when we go to live stream events again, that's going to be because of our Patreon supporters. The blog, we've got 4 new writers, all thanks to the Patreon, so that's why we pitch the Patreon to support everything that we do over here.
Yeah, please go check that out if you enjoy any of our content.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to tease real quick on the Patreon podcast After Dark. We have a new product that even by this episode hasn't been released yet, and we talk about it on the Patreon, and we're going to do that in the future, so as little as $1 you can listen to that.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah.
Also, we've got, I don't know, at this point, are we still gonna have order tokens?
I don't know, they're going fast. If we do, congratulations, you can still get order tokens. If we don't, we'll probably do new designs in another X months. I don't know how long. I'm just gonna throw X in there, but yeah, we may do, the 4 factions we'll change up and do different art for. We do have Notorious Scoundrels and Fifth Trooper tokens. Those will probably stay the same, and we'll just continue like getting those because people seem to like those. So just another way you can support us and doing everything and get some cool stuff out of it too.
By the way, those make great like red/blue player tokens because one of them is red and one of them is blue. So
just like our red and blue sidebars, which you can get on our website as well.
It's like we thought of this stuff, man. Jeez, this is crazy.
You would think so. But some of it I just lucked into.
Jay was like, "Oh, they're red and they're blue.
They're red and blue." I didn't.
I was trying to do a Halo thing.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So you can get all that.
thefifthtrooper.com.
That's
all
right.
Let's talk about Force users. Real quick, do we want to include Grievous in this discussion?
As we were having the Force user discussion last week, I was considering that. I think General Grievous is what I think. Yes, but we maybe should detail the differences when we talk about General Grievous.
He doesn't do anything that Force users do.
I don't think that's true, and I'd like to have that conversation.
Okay, we can have that. I was going to say
I think that there's a number of units in the game that actually, now that I'm thinking this through, I think that there are a number of units in the game that I would like to quickly pile in a pile and throw them in the corner and never talk about them again today. So I'm going to list them. The first is General Grievous.
Yep.
Second is Sabine with a Darksaber. The third is Agent Callus with his choppy stick. Is there anybody else that fits that like profile? That isn't a Force user. I don't think so. So all of these units, their threat range is not range 2 plus a speed 1 move. It is just straight range 2. Well, Sabine's a little bit farther than that, yeah. But Callus and Grievous are both range 2.
Mm-hmm.
Sabine's is 2 speed 3 moves, whatever that ends up being. It's like about 16 inches.
Yeah, it's actually the same as range 2 plus a speed 1 move.
Well, there you go. Sabine fits in. But maybe most importantly, they don't have any of the tricks and stuff that allow you to like bury for free with force push, right? So you can't bury a unit. Like if you don't chop a unit up, like you're kind of stuck there.
I say no to Grievous. I don't think he belongs here.
Yeah, I don't think any of these 3 units belong there. I think,
like in the stories, he is not a Jedi.
They do operate under a lot of the same premises as far as diving goes, though, which is what I think you were probably kind of getting at there, Kyle. We talked a lot last episode about diving, and I think that all 3 of those characters, when used in a melee capacity, you should play very similar to how you would dive with Jedi.
Yeah, you just have less tools at your disposal to actually bury them properly.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I would exclude them from the Force user discussion for the reasons you listed. So, all right, let's hit Empire first because we literally just did those. So I think we can kind of very quickly go through.
Yeah.
Although we did not talk about Operative Vader because we did Commanders technically.
Dang straight.
Sure. We'll pick a unit. We'll rate it. Go ahead.
All right, Kyle. Palpatine.
I'm gonna go with 4.
3.
4.
All right. So I said 3 since I'm the odd duck out here. I would have said 4 in a different meta.
I would have said 5 in a different meta.
Yeah, me too.
All right. All right. So about the same. I think
+1 in a different
meta. I think I put him down 1. And maybe this is just a level of play or what we've seen him capable of doing, but I find that he's great and I've played him and I like him. He's just very complex to use sometimes, and I think that for me just downgrades him 1 because you take an already complex kind of archetype right in the Force user and you just add that complexity to it with Palpatine, which just complicates things. I feel like overall in the game for you when it's already hard enough having a Force user, right? He's just that much harder to play correctly.
Yeah, and actually we should kind of caveat because our discussion last week was very focused on melee Force users.
So I'd like to I know where you're going with this. I actually think based on our discussion last week, Palpatine should be in the Grievous, kind of camp where he probably isn't. The conversation we had last week doesn't really relate super well to Palpatine.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. And that's kind of the point I'm making because he is a ranged Force user.
Yeah.
And for that reason, you often don't even take Force push on him. And he operates extremely differently than all of these other ones that we're about to talk about. So Yeah, I kind of agree with that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, like
clearly he has force powers, but
yeah, he's not really a force user. Like the only, I mean, until Force Barrier was released, the only force power you ever put on him was anger, which was
yeah.
So it sounds like you guys are at a 3 with me.
No, I mean,
no, I think he's great.
But
part of the reason he's great is because he can zap things from range 2 away.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think part of the reason he's great is because he's not like the rest of the units on this list. Is like he's not a force user is the reason he's good.
He's not a saber wielder.
He's not a saber wielder. However you want to.
By the time we get through this, we may not have any units to talk about, boys. just crossing them off the. Now we're not going to talk about that one.
Yeah, he's very different. I think he is very similar in that everything we talked about, wanting to create a situation where you want to fight over an area, is also true of Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like keeping him safe via burying him in melee, that's not a thing really with Palpatine.
In fact, if you've done that, you've probably something's gone horribly wrong for you or your opponent. in that juncture, either they've buried Palpatine in melee for you, or you don't understand how Palpatine works.
Yep. That's pretty safe. All right. So 3-3-4. Sorry, 3-4-4 on Palpatine. Vader Commander.
Oh boy, I'm gonna go with. I don't know what I gave him 2 weeks ago, but I'm gonna go with a 1.
I think you gave him a 2.
I may have,
yeah,
and I think I was in a different mood. We're gonna go with a 1 today. Yeah,
1.
I'm gonna say 2 because he's it's still like, yes, he is slow, and yes, he has difficulty getting in there, but he still can just murder your opponent's entire army once he gets in there.
I think he's the hardest to dive with.
Yes.
Yeah.
No question. I think that reinforces the things that are bad about force users, he takes and makes them even more bad. But the thing in contrast, the things that are good about force users, he kind of takes and makes even better. He's the killiest machine once he gets in there. It's really hard to beat 6 red dice pierce 3 with force choke every turn.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's got access to like Vader's might is an incredible tool. Implacable, allowing him basically an extra turn, which you can like on your first activation, you can like chop some stuff up, recover, and then on your second activation, you can use all those force powers you recovered and chop some more stuff up.
He's amazing once he's in, and he's the most difficult to get there.
Well, and he's overcosted, so like you can't, like you tried to, but like we were talking last week about building a list around them to support them. Well, he makes it harder because he costs so much. And so when you can just get the operative version of him for less and it can do more. And so it's like, okay. I mean, this is what and we're going to talk about in a little while, the Lukes, but like, I don't know. They just made a better version of it in an operative slot. Whoa. And so I was like, okay, I'll take that one then. And it costs less. Sold.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, for me, pretty much the only thing that matters when gauging Jedi is how easy they are to dive. Pretty much all of everybody on this list has an I win button printed. Like if you successfully dive, right? Like the fact that Vader hits the I win button like harder than everybody else is like cool, but like unnecessary, and the fact that all of his strengths are like, I can hit the I win button as hard as possible. That's the part that doesn't matter.
Yeah, like the things the positives that he has, you're absolutely right. By the time they matter, it's like, all right, it would have mattered for like if he had less, like it still would have been fine no matter what. Like, but like getting to that point is so hard. And I think we talked about this when I might have mentioned this when we were talking about commanders, but I was just like, he's just missing something. There's something he's missing. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's surge on defense. Maybe it's an extra keyword, whatever it is. He's missing something that would make him actually bump up on that ranking, right? But right now he's a 1 because frankly he's kind of unusable in my opinion.
All right, let's do Operative Vader.
Kyle, you go first this time.
3.
So I'm gonna give him a 4. He's kind of my dude as far as Jedi and Sith go, so I might be a little biased.
I think I gave him a 4 last time, right? I'm gonna give.
We didn't go over him last time.
Oh no, right. Oh, I'm thinking of yeah.
Jay's over here.
So sorry, I'm thinking of my next part of why I'm going to give him a 4. So I'm giving him a 4, and I have a reason why.
So the reason I give him a 3 is because he doesn't have jump.
that's a big deal. For sure.
Well, there's 2 reasons I give him a 3.
That's a good reason.
The first is he doesn't have jump, and the second is because you have to take him with stormtroopers.
Is that fair? Is that fair right now?
I think so. I mean, that's a big reason that Palpatine's a 4 and not a 5.
That's okay. I'll give you that.
He is very good at. He is uniquely good at some specific things.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is probably the best Force user at repositioning opposing units for a variety of reasons, primarily with the combination of scatter, force choke, and force push.
And Vader's might.
Yeah. Dooku is probably second on that list, but he doesn't have as many tools as often as Vader does. As
Relentless Vader also helps a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, I went 4. I think if you had asked me if we did this before Callus came out, I would have given him a 3. But now that Callus is out, I think a 4 because I think there wasn't as many opportunities to use him. There wasn't as many like lists that really could push him into directions that he needed to be in. And we did, ever since we did that theory crafting on Callus on After Dark, I'm in love with this idea because I'm just more and more I think about it. Callus and Operative Vader are so good together that I think it takes Operative Vader to that next level.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that list is like better than just like Imperial Officer Operative Vader, but I feel you. I mean, I definitely think there's way more to work with Operative Vader than Commander Vader.
Yeah. Well, and where I'll argue is because last week we talked about, you always want your Force user to go last, right? Well, Callus gives you that opportunity, especially in the round 3, 4, maybe 4, 5, where you're using ISB and then then you're going 1-1. So you always have orders on Operative Vader and Callus, like your most important pieces. I think that's just so clutch for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the combination of Seize the Initiative and Cunning is a big deal there.
Yeah.
Right, like that's definitely a good thing to kind of like hit once you're in the thick of it. I definitely feel like the reason I give Operative Vader a 4 is, he is very good at repositioning things. I also think that he's actually like pretty good at like forcing units that your opponent thought were safe into places where that he can like bury himself. It's Operative Vader is a very I don't want to say he's the hardest piece in the game to use, but I think he's probably very close to it. But there's some basically you can do like weird stuff like move, force, I think it's force throw a target, scatter them closer to you, and then you could subsequently like force push them closer to you again before you move and then base them. There's some weird stuff you can do with that. And if you have choke as well, there's some additional hijinks you can kind of pull with that to like pull their unit. You can like pulled our unit leader even closer, and so it can get out of hand very quickly, specifically if your opponent has never dealt with it before. And for that reason, I think he can be very easy to bury in your opponent's army.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've played against a lot of Operative Vader, so you've run him a lot. leading up to Worlds, the Lost Worlds. We had a lot of like Jedi Luke versus Operative Vader matches. So
yeah, I mean, he's bad in that matchup for a variety of reasons.
He is.
But that's because Operative Luke's like,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna find out what Operative Luke's gonna be.
Yeah, let's do so real quick, because we didn't actually do this on the Commander episode. What upgrades would you run with Operative Vader?
Force push.
So force push, obviously.
Yeah.
Number
one.
Yeah. And for every unit that we're gonna talk about today, that is the answer, other than
force push.
Just to be clear. So force push. So I think Operative Vader's in a little bit of a weird spot. He kind of wishes he had a second training slot.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the list. If you're running him with another character, specifically Callus, I think that training slot is seize the initiative.
Yeah.
I think if you're running him in any other format, I think endurance is probably where you want to be. It's really tempting to be like, take tenacity, but you need that slot to do something more than that.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really have trouble killing things anyway once he's there.
He doesn't surge natively, which can be a bit of a problem sometimes. Sometimes you only roll like 3 hits on 5 red dice and you're like, man, I really need to kill this unit. Force choke's not going to get me there. So I understand why tenacity is the thing that people want to take. I also think that the second slot is always force choke on this particular version of Vader. I think it's force push, force choke. I don't think it's really close. I could see like a argument for like force barrier, maybe, if you're playing like a little bit more defensively. But again, you're playing them with stormtroopers. Who cares? Let them die. They're bad anyways.
Yeah.
So I think it's just force push, force choke.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. Agreed on all that.
All right, let's do Rebels next.
Okay.
There's only 2 options here.
Let's
start with
Luke.
Let's start with Commander Luke.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah, I'll give him a 4.
I'm gonna give him a 3.
Ooh, all right, Odd Duck. What do you got?
As someone who has a lot of Commander Luke games, he's just his lightsaber pool is kind of unreliable, and he doesn't have Master of the Force.
Master of the Force is a big deal for sure. He's probably, other than Maul, the Force user you recover the most with.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I gave him a 4 because he has jump. What did you not give a number to because it didn't have jump?
Operative Vader.
Yeah, that's right.
But Operative Vader does have Master of the Force and ranged and relentless and a ranged attack with scatter. So if I had to if I could take Operative Vader over Commander Luke in a Rebel list, I think I would do it.
Oh, I don't agree with that at all.
Well, I would at least consider it. Their command cards.
I love how he backed off of that.
I don't think that's close.
So vast. It was so
Commander Luke's command cards are better.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
So I think Operative Luke and Commander Luke. Clearly, we're going to talk about Operative Luke next. The reason I'm giving Commander Luke a 4 is because he has the best Force user command hand in the game, and I don't think it's real close.
No, I agree.
But clearly he is tied with another Force user for best command hand in the game.
Yeah.
But he's significantly cheaper.
Yeah.
You know.
And that Yeah, and then you couple that. So for in my head, and this is coming from I've played Commander Luke a number of times. I love environmental gear on him with that jump, and it's just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna, none of this stops me from doing what I want to do. And I just think like that with Boba, Sabine, like that's just so powerful, like to just be like, I'm just gonna zip right over here, like all that stuff
That's
you
good.
thought that was gonna stop me isn't stopping me now.
Yeah, I think nowadays it's probably ascension cables.
Okay,
Yeah.
Just
fair.
because you basically get to jump twice, right?
Yeah, I think I like environmental's cheaper, right? That's the only reason that it's kind of like it, what, 3 or 4 points cheaper. So like I think that's the only reason I say that, if you need the, if you're like searching for points. But yeah, ascension cables is good as well.
So let's talk about his command hand real quick and why it's so good.
Okay.
So we just talked. So we just talked about how important it is for force users to be able to go last, and also to not die when they get shot. So yeah, he has 3 cards that give him dodge tokens. One of those cards gives him extra defensive effects. In addition to that, full of surprises. The best force user 2-pip besides Give Into Your Anger.
Yeah.
Hold up, I'm thinking about this. I think knowledge and defense might be better.
Yeah, okay, knowledge and defense. Because you can get like 7 dodge tokens from knowledge and defense.
Yeah, and you can like it can be pretty stupid.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, that's fair. But knowledge and defense does, I mean, we're talking about 2 cards that do essentially the same thing, which is make your Jedi harder to kill and also be a reactive card if necessary. So, part of, and then the 4th card.
Well, okay, hold on. I want to go back. So I'm saying I think it's the best because it's not reliant on as much stuff to happen, right? Because with knowledge and defense, like you had to have, what is it, range?
I think it's range 1 or 2.
Right. So I think you're probably murder balling anyways, but like, if you know what I mean, but you have to make sure that that's what you did in order to do that. With Luke's, it's very independent of anything else and can just kind of happen on its to protect him. I guess. Yeah, that's kind of where I was at.
It's like 1 dodge token versus, like I guess if we're gonna where does the extra white dice convert into like equaling dodge tokens? Like probably at the 2 to 3 mark. I think once you're like at 4 on knowledge and defense, like it's just better.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm with you. But yeah, I mean, he's got sort of the perfectly tailored force user command hand because you've got essentially 4 passive / reactive cards, which are your 2 pips and your 3 pips, and then 2 proactive cards, which are your 1 pips,
which is where you want them to be,
right?
And they're not always there.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. He's got the best command hand of any of the force users. It's not particularly close.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that, like, I'm not sure any of his command cards are like the best command card in that slot.
Yeah.
Right. But I think when you add them up, it's just like there's so much value in his command hand. It's really hard to beat it.
It's just well tailored to do what you want a force user to be doing.
Yeah.
Like I think you could make the case that some of Dooku and Palpatine's cards in particular have much better and more unique effects on them. And maybe if either of them had 6 cards, this would be a different conversation.
I think it definitely would be. I think, but the fact that he's got 6 command cards, 6 decent to awesome command cards, as opposed to like 2 awesome and 1 okay.
Well, I mean, the problem is when you put either of the Lukes in your list, you don't want to give up any of those, right? You're like, no, I'm gonna keep this one. Oh, I'm gonna keep this one and this one and this one and
his new 3-pip is give upable, I think.
It is. It's situational.
But other than that,
But it makes you think. You still think. You're like, do I? Yeah.
It's definitely. Go ahead.
Well, no, you first.
Well, I was gonna say it's very easy to just like play standing orders on the turn that you would have like played your normal 3-pip and kind of like just have that in the bag if you need it, you know.
Yep. And when you need it, especially if your opponent doesn't expect you to have I Am a Jedi in your hand.
Yeah.
Like there are times when you throw that down on the table and your opponent's like,
It's not just it's I guess I lose.
Exactly. So yeah. All right. Well, let's do Jedi Luke.
Sure.
I'll go first this time because I keep making you guys go.
Aren't
first.
we all going to have the same number?
Yeah, 5.
5.
Are you giving him 5?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him a 7.
It only goes to 5. Mike.
1 out of 5, 7.
There are very few units in this game that I have played and felt like unstoppable with in like competitive games. The few games that I've played with Operative Luke in like a competitive setting, I felt like I was cheating in a way that I do not feel like I'm cheating when I play clones. You know, clones are obviously busted, but like they still like, I don't know. But with Luke, you're just like, I do this and I do this and I also do this thing, and like, oh, and I killed that unit, and oh yeah, I have 2 dodges from my command card too, by the way. And yeah, he's maybe the single-handed the unit that if I had to pick a unit to carry any game at any point on his back, it's Operative Luke, and it's not particularly close.
Yeah,
I think he's the best unit, at least in a vacuum, on the list that we're going to talk about today. I think there's one that comes close that we'll talk about, but he's amazing.
I agree. I mean, he's got, I think part of the reason for that, and we talked just a little bit ago about how much value of a Force user is tied in, like how reliably they can get themselves involved. Is he's, I think, without question, the toughest Force user on this list.
Yeah.
Both by virtue of having 7 health, but also just because he gets so many dodge tokens from his command cards.
Yeah. And there's really no penalty to burying him because of disengage.
Yep.
I think the only reason that I think he sees not as much play is I don't think he's got a great supporting cast in his list that he's played in, which I think is the only reason he's not like the top Force user we see on the tables right now.
Yeah, and maybe that changes with the A5.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Yeah.
I do think that there are some lists with like Captain DLTs and Vigilance that are probably underexplored a little bit. But yeah, I agree with that. You know, like if you could take him with like B1s. And,
yeah.
You
know, the order control, I think CIS Jedi and stuff there's a lot built into that faction that makes them uniquely set up, I think, to kind of rule Force user tables.
Yeah, even when the units themselves are inferior in a vacuum to their counterparts.
Yeah, I definitely think like if you're just looking at the Force user, Operative Luke is at the top. It's not close.
Yeah.
But when you start looking at the shells that you have to take them with, he kind of falls down the list to like the second or third or maybe even fourth slot.
Yep. All right. Let's hit, since you just talked about Separatists, let's hit them next. Well, real quick, what upgrades are you taking on Operative Luke?
Force push.
Clearly force push.
Clearly.
I'm going to say it for everyone. I just want everybody to know and be clear.
I think his training slot is either tenacity or seize the initiative, again, depending on the list.
Yeah. Tenacity on him is
pretty gross.
It is.
Oh my god.
He has the most ridiculous attack pool.
Yeah, I played Bushman and he's Son of Skywalker in ATST and just like it was gone.
It's like here's 16 dice,
Yeah,
crit impact
with tenacity,
pierce
and I was just like, yo, why? Like, is this a thing?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so bad.
If you want to do like the thing with in The Mandalorian where that hallway scene with Jedi Luke, if you want to do that, just take tenacity. And
Yeah.
That's what he does. He goes in there, he's like, I'm gonna swing this lightsaber. You're gonna pick up a unit.
Yeah.
Like that's just how it works.
Man, that's so funny that that Mandalorian showed him like that, because that's exactly like how he is in this game. And
I remember, I think I texted Kyle or Zach
Yeah.
when I saw that. I was like, this is Operative Luke.
Yeah,
There he is. This is the Operative Luke we have on the table.
Yeah.
So
good.
I think in his other Force slots, I am in Jedi Mind Trick on Operative Luke is better than Force Push a lot of the time. And I'm not saying you should like take one instead of the other. I'm saying you should take both. But because he has disengaged, Force Push is a lot less meaningful on him. It's still super important for like objective play and stuff. But Jedi Mind Trick with Master of the Force, oh man,
it's really
if you haven't done it, it's a drug. like it's like you have 2 suppression and you have 2 suppression and you have 2 suppression.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's just, like it's really gross. And I think his last slot is probably Saber Throw.
Yeah, I think you could make the case for reflexes over either Saber Throw or Mind Trick.
So do you leave? So if you have to, do you leave that third slot open? Then is that the one you would leave open? Or
I've seen people leave it open.
Yeah. I would never leave it open.
The only Force user that I pretty much ever, unless I'm doing something janky, that like leave a Force slot open on is Palpatine.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty much. I do think that there is a case here for barrier.
Yep.
Again,
maybe
I'm
in
not
that
sure
Wookiee
his shell
list.
is super. Yeah, I think the Wookiee list maybe. But I think the shell often is not super worth protecting.
I don't think it's that so much, because Rebel troopers with DLTs are actually quite offensively efficient, and their problem is just that they die when they get shot.
Yeah.
The bigger problem for me with barrier is just that Luke is very rarely near the stuff that you want to be using it on.
He's very independent for a Force user.
Yeah.
He wants to be kind of like aggressively zoning, and you want your squishy rebel units to be hiding or at least kind of like utilizing the range of that zone. So one thing that I like to do with Jedi Luke is ideally you put him sort of behind a forward line of sight blocker, such that if your opponent wants to get within range 3 of your other units, they have to move within threat range of Luke. And if you're doing that, then Luke is too far out ahead to use barrier on anything. So
yeah, I think that's fair.
That's the primary reason I don't like barrier on him. It's just that he's which I think if you're running him with Wookiees, that's a little different. If you're doing that Wookiee skew. I think Wookiees are like an ideal target for barrier for a variety of reasons, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, personally, I like reflexes on him just because it, the one turn where you want him to go first, Son of Skywalker, is also the one turn where he doesn't get a free dodge unless you run reflexes. And it also lets you to get kind of like extended life out of that full of surprises turn. Full of surprises is kind of like I don't care if I'm exposed, you're not going to be able to kill me or even really hurt me with one shot. And reflexes allows you to kind of extend that to 2 shots. So
yeah, I agree.
All right, let's do droids. There's only 2 to talk about here. Let's start with Dooku.
Oh man, if you okay, I'm gonna open with 4.
3.5, 3.
3.5.
3.5, 3.
I'm gonna say 4/5. to me, he's like the perfect control force user.
He's what I wish Palpatine was. I think is it like clearly they're different units, but he to me plays more like to how am I trying to say? Dooku feels more consistently good over the course of the game, as opposed to for Palpatine. Just like if he doesn't spike, he feels a little bit meh.
I think part of that is the faction.
Yeah, I think so too.
Droids are, as you already noted, they're uniquely suited to support an expensive control piece. But yeah, like if I could take Palpatine and droids over Dooku, I think I would, personally.
That's fair.
Especially if you could take him with IRG.
Yeah, that'd be silly.
It would be kind of silly. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, his command, clearly he has cunning, which is great. Cunning is a great ability in general, and it's especially good on somebody with a laser stick. His command cards are all amazing. They all do unique and incredible things. The only one that's kind of situational is the 2-pip. I mean, it's like double the fall is kind of met against like a gun line, just because the tokens that you're kicking back are less likely to be super timing sensitive.
I agree, but for different reasons.
I mean, he's also less likely to be there when you want to actually play that.
My problem is that double the fall is best against force users, so it's best against units that are traditionally kind of bad.
Dooku is
all right, buddy.
Dooku is definitely a like anti-force user, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Between his command cards and Makashi mastery, he's kind of explicitly that. He is a force user counter.
He is the duelist.
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, I guess it's just like if he had 3 more cards, I'd probably rate him higher, right? Because I just
feels like a character that should too, right?
Yeah. Like I feel like he wants to do more, but he doesn't, and you feel stuck sometimes with him. And I don't know. That's why I ranked him as a 3.
I'm with you. I also think that it kind of is hard to fit a T series in a list with Dooku. I feel like, and that to me is a detractor. The T series is amazing. I think you want it in almost every separatist list if you can get one in there. And the fact that Dooku lists generally run without them, I think, is not great.
Yeah. I mean, you can pull like a BX sniper team or a B1 unit with an E5, almost the same cost as the T series. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just what I'm fundamentally saying is he's expensive.
He is expensive. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the less expensive Droid Force user. Real quick, upgrades for Dooku. I don't think this is going to be super controversial, but push, choke, 3rd slot.
I'm big on reflexes. I know some people like throw for the shenanigans with the 1-pip. But I think it's reflexes, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
What about barrier?
So personally, I would go push, barrier, reflexes. I think if it was me, I don't think he necessarily needs choke. I don't think he's generally not in the thick of it super quickly, so he's probably only using it once or twice a game. And I think that he's probably master of the forcing, reflexes, and barrier every turn.
Who are you burying in that?
Just B1s, I think, are fine. It's not the best use for barrier, but I think that he's just back there.
I guess.
Enough.
See, I would. I like choke. Just, I know it's more of a like in case type, like this is just in case something weird goes on, but I'm gonna choke you if it happens, right? But I don't know. That seems more in my head. That seems more logical than trying to, I don't know, protect B1s. I could care. I don't know.
B1s are important, Jay.
Yeah,
They're also really frustrating to shoot when you're shaving 2 hits off the top of your attacks.
Yeah, that's fair.
I lean push, choke, barrier over reflexes simply because if you really want those extra dodge tokens, you can just give one of those scanners to like a naked B1 or your uplink B1.
Yeah, for me, it's for so many points and what he does, it's almost like he wants to keep him. He like the character is almost like wanting to protect himself, like he doesn't care about the rest of the army, and so just I don't know. It just always felt like that for me. Like I'm gonna give myself a dodge token. Screw these B1s.
No, I get it. I've just like I don't run reflexes on him. I've never had Dooku die in a game, and I've used him a lot. So maybe I'm like too conservative with him, but
well, I mean, I'm not sure that's the case. I just think for my play style, I think I would rather have reflexes personally.
Yeah.
I also think the command slot is just aggressive tactics, and we don't have to really say much else about it. Maybe vigilance if you're running reflexes, but I think it's still AT.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. All right, Maul.
6.
6.
Come on, Mike. It only goes to 5.
5. Not close.
I'm also giving him a 5.
Yeah. I was a 4, but then like after some of the Invader League stuff and watching people, Kyle play him and other, I'm like, oh yeah, he's a 5. Like he does some crazy stuff.
He does.
Yeah, that standby shenanigans is nuts.
Yeah, when you remember to take a standby on him, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I think Maul just has so much going for him. So at his core, him plus his droids are basically the same cost as Dooku. So you're getting 2 activations for the price of 1. First of all, it also, because you have to take a commander, you're taking a T series probably. Maybe you're doing something wonky, but you're often taking T series, Maul, his droids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And oh my god, he's got 2 1-pips and 2-pip. His 2-pip gives him infiltrate or says he can't be shot. And I don't know, his 2 1-pips are both really good. He's really quite excellent.
Yeah, I mean, Duel of the Fates is good, primarily because it gives him a dodge token.
Sure.
Phantom Menace is good, although I think you could argue it's similar to like some of Anakin's cards in that it just gives him a keyword that other characters already have.
So I actually think, yes, I think that's fair, but I actually think the value in that card is solely in the initiative, in that because of how CIS works, it is a 1-pip for anything in your army, not just Maul. So Maul still gets to go last when he plays that card.
Oh, you mean at last?
Yeah, whichever.
Yeah. Sorry,
I don't know it. I'm gonna be honest. They're all like super generic. Yeah. They all sound the same.
No, I agree with you about it last.
And like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's ambush that lets you trigger Juyo Mastery, basically.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Yeah.
So I also gave him a 5. I mean, obviously, I think he's good. I used him in Invader League.
I think he's like, if we're not in a vacuum, I think he's the best Force user, and I don't think it's real close.
Not in a vacuum. So within the context of his faction.
Within the context of factions and supporting pieces, I think Maul is the best Force user in the game. I don't think it's real close.
I think it's closer, simply because we're sort of we haven't talked about his primary weakness yet, which is that he's the most fragile one. He only has one card that gives him a dodge, and the timing is awkward because it's a 1 pip. He effectively has 5 health because you need Juyo Mastery. You need to be wounded to have Juyo Mastery. And he doesn't have any other cards that improve his defense. So like it's not weird.
Think he's the best.
No, I agree, but I think you're, it's not as if he's like the perfect combination, like Jedi. He's the polar opposite of Jedi Luke in terms of durability.
He's definitely much more fragile.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Now I think that he clearly he can do some very unique things. We already talked about the move standby thing. He essentially has relentless, except the timing of relentless is far more restrictive than Juyo Mastery, because relentless requires it to be after a move action, and after means immediately after, right? Juyo Mastery, you can attack and then move and move again, or you can attack and dodge and aim. It's just way more flexible. So yeah, I'm with you, I think. But I do think it's important to highlight how fragile he is, because while I said that I've never lost Dooku in a game, I think that Maul dies in almost every game that I use him. And it's not weird for him to get punched to death. I mean, I've had him punched to death by a rebel officer.
Yeah, I mean, I also think one of the reasons that Maul is so good is that he's one of the few Force user pieces. He might be the only Force user piece that I feel like you can lose and not automatically lose the game.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which I think, yes, is he fragile? Absolutely. But I think CIS lists just tend to be packing so much punch in them in addition that oftentimes the distraction that was Maul sometimes is just enough.
Yeah, because it's odd, because with other ones, we were talking about this in the earlier the cast from last week, is that they're kind of your centerpiece or whatever, but Maul's really, he's both. He's a centerpiece and a supporting piece to the rest of the army. It's real weird how he kind of rides this middle ground.
Are you familiar with the term distraction Carnifex?
Oh.
So it's a 40k term.
Well, that's why.
Yeah, there's this creature in 40k called a Carnifex. It's basically like an Ultralisk from StarCraft. I'm sure you're familiar with that. It's this big angry alien with arms that stab things. And this comes from a version of the game where they were decent but not absolutely terrifying, but also kind of hard to kill. So it was kind of if you ignored them, they would get into your lines and start killing things because they have giant scary arms. But if you shot them, it would kind of require more effort than you felt like it should, and then the rest of the army would do stuff. That's kind of what Maul is, right? He's kind of like a distraction Carnifex, where if he gets in, he's going to mess you up. But if you focus on him, it's going to require enough effort that the rest of the army is going to be able to exploit that opening, hopefully. So, yeah, distraction Carnifex.
I like that.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek term because it's this big, scary, terrifying-looking monster that's essentially a distraction from the other stuff. But yeah. All right. Last but not least.
New every day, huh, Mike?
Last but not least. Republic.
All right.
Oh, the Republic.
Who cares? Let's just skip this one. No, I'm just kidding.
Anakin.
Yeah. 2.
I'm giving them a 0.
I love how Mike's just thrown away our whole charting system. All right. 0.
I'm gonna give him a 2.
Okay.
Mike, go ahead. Tell us what it
Yeah,
is.
sure. I'll
don't say he's not Rex, because Obi-Wan has the same problem.
Yep.
So first of all, they both have that problem.
I know.
Okay. All right, great. So now that we've agreed upon that, that is a problem.
Yes.
but it is, I guess, one we're not talking about at the moment. All right. So
Yeah.
let's take it from the top.
Please.
Take it from the top. So Anakin Skywalker has this flaw card. It's not a story the Jedi would tell. And basically, at any point, if he's got a suppression token at the beginning of the turn, your opponent's just like, you can't give your guy an order this turn. Okay, so that's detractor number one. And I could forgive that detractor if he in some way, shape, or form made up for it. But the dude's got the worst command hand of all Force users and maybe some heroes in the game. And it's like his command hand doesn't do anything at all. Like it gives him some keywords that he probably should have started the game with to begin with. Is he 15 points less than Kenobi? Sure. Does 15 points mean that like he shouldn't have charge? I don't know. Commander Luke would like to speak with you. This guy is like Commander Luke with downside.
I have to stop you because he's only 10 points less than Kenobi.
All right, sorry. Sorry, 10, not 15. Make my case for me, Kyle. Please continue.
I'm supporting you. I'm supporting you, Mike.
This guy is 160 points.
That's all we can do.
His keywords are worse than Commander Luke to start the game. He's got a flaw card, and he's got 3 command cards, all of which are worse than Luke's worst command card. And I don't see how this is defensible. Like, can you play a game where you can like slap saber throw on Anakin and like he can run around the battlefield with Relentless? Sure, go ahead, have some fun. I just like it's not good. You can't, there's no argument to be made that it is. And the people trying to make it work, like, I'm sorry, it's bad.
Well, he had one of those rants coming, everyone. So here it is.
True.
Yeah,
I'm actually surprised it took us. This is what, like 3 hours into our recording session here. So.
We finally got it. Yeah. That's it. I do like the I maybe it's the idea and not the practice, but I like the idea of like getting stronger as the game goes on. But I understand like what you're saying, that maybe he should have had maybe it should have been different. But that's why I said 2, because unlike Mike, I follow the rules and I was within our ranking system and said 2 because I like the idea of kind of growing throughout the game.
I like the idea too. I just like maybe have like I literally think that all of Anakin's cards could like do the same thing as Commander Luke's original cards plus the text that's on them, and it might not be good enough. Like I don't, but it would be a start.
Yeah, I mean, your core point essentially is that the cards don't do anything besides give him keywords that other units have,
and keywords are great, but like you're telling me that like this is one of the only Force users that doesn't have a way to enhance his attack, right? Like just about every Force user in the game can like double attack or do something crazy that like really changes the game state. Anakin doesn't have any of that. I mean, for God's sakes, like Kenobi's 1-pip is like, I get a standby token, I get like 4 dodges and a couple aims, and Anakin's is like, what is it? Is that the Relentless one? I don't.
The 1-pip is outmaneuver and Relentless. Yeah.
He gains outmaneuver and Relentless, which like, okay, but there's also drawbacks on all of these command cards.
Yeah.
Like, I just like, I literally think that card could say outmaneuver Relentless. Anakin can attack twice this turn. It's sort of Son of Skywalker-esque, and like. it'd be fine.
So you're selling him slightly short because he does have the strongest. When you give him tenacity, he does have the strongest lightsaber base attack because it's 6 surging red with Pierce 3.
Sure.
He also, I mean, Maul doesn't have an attack or a card that enhances his attack either, and Maul's a 5. So
Maul also natively has 8 dice and goes to 9 with
yes, I'm aware of this. Which is still, by the way, since he doesn't surge, it's still it's still worse than Anakin's attack with 6 red surging and Pierce 3.
Also has a 4 red die saber throw.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of this, right? I gave him a 2. I'm not like an Anakin fan either. There are some.
I know you're not.
Yeah, there are some unique things that he does. You mentioned the saber throw thing. The only other unit that can basically have relentless and jump and saber throw is Maul. And the saber throw is decent. It's 3 surging red with Pierce 3. Usually you can get out of cover shots with jump. So you're basically picking up 3 dudes. And then, yes, his command cards don't do anything except give him keywords, but they give him a combination of keywords that nobody else has. So, individually, it's like, okay, relentless. Other force users have relentless. All right, outmaneuver. You can take situational awareness. Master of the Force. Lots of force users have that. Surge crit. Lots of force users have that. Exemplar and reliable. Those are both unique to Anakin, but maybe something he should just have printed on his card anyway. Yeah, I get all that.
I think if he was like 180 points and you just printed all of that stuff on his card and gave him actual command cards, this conversation might be different. But
yeah,
I just an aside that's along the same conversation, but I feel like I don't know, but like they took Vader and they took Anakin and they're like, hey, these are supposed to be 2 powerful force users, and they just kind of neutered them from the start. And you're just kind of going, all right, I guess. Like, but these are the characters that most people want to play, and they feel just less than everything else.
Well, I'm not sure the Vader's super fair. Vader was like on paper pretty mean looking at the start of the game, right? But Anakin, I don't know. This is the chosen one. Maybe he was the chosen one to be put in the trash can. I don't know. But he definitely wasn't the chosen one for Star Wars Legion. You can do some gimmicky things with Exemplar, which is in my mind the only really unique thing he's got going for him.
Well, I wonder too if maybe because the way the game works in a 6-round scenario, right? You're not even gonna get all those keywords until it's probably like just barely gonna matter, right? And so like maybe even if you could have just piled those keywords up on like 3 and 2 pip, and then 1 pip just did something crazy that like was like, and now XYZ, but like it just leads to like, because by the time you're playing your 1 pip, it's probably around 5.
So my biggest problem with him is just that he's 10 points cheaper than Kenobi.
I mean, this would probably be a different conversation if he was like 140 points, and I think he could be, frankly. Like I mean, maybe I don't know. I mean,
I don't even think
maybe that's too cheap for something that can have force push, but I don't know.
All right, let's talk about Obi-Wan.
All right, let's do it.
Do you want to talk about what force stuff goes?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's do that.
I know we're trying to avoid me talking negatively about him continually, but
no, and we actually we didn't do that for Maul either, so we should do that for Maul also. But let's do Anakin real quick.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think Anakin's force push, saber throw, tenacity, and endurance is probably the standard setup.
Yep.
Do you put C's in there for any reason?
I think the only reason you're running C's is if you're running Anakin and Kenobi, and then you're running a gimmick list. which is fine. I've done that before.
I'm aware.
But
I've seen it. I've seen a list here.
I don't. That list isn't very good, but it can be uniquely good in certain situations.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only time. And I think you're trading tenacity for C's definitely. He's probably still on endurance.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you need to take a 6-point upgrade to negate all of his drawbacks. Because he wasn't bad enough. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Maul.
Why don't you take this one?
Yeah. All right. I personally do push and saber throw. I think you could make the case for push and choke, just because of how well choke combos with objective play and geo mastery. I originally started out on team choke, and I have since migrated to team throw.
Yeah, I think I did too, frankly.
Yeah.
Is there any anger play with him at all?
No. Anger's bad on anyone except Palpatine.
It's
He doesn't really need the aim tokens, and you can't like if you're taking wounds, you've done something wrong anyway. So, yeah, and those 4 slots are far too valuable anyway. Like,
okay.
I mean, you can just take offensive push, and then you get the aim token when you want it, and you don't take up a 4 slot.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay. Yeah, sure.
But even then, I don't think he's not super desperate for aim tokens.
Well, it's worth noting the offensive push like combos will recover, right?
It does.
Because he's recovering his force powers to get him back.
Yep.
He gets, yeah.
So I think his first training slot is tenacity all the time. Because of how Geo Mastery works, you have it triggered whenever you have Geo Mastery triggered. So
you'd also have anger triggered too. It's weird, huh?
Well, anger is like an instance trigger.
I know. I'm just
static check.
I'm just poking the bear.
Don't worry, everybody. It's like after 11 p.m., so we're getting tired.
Yeah. And I think you can leave a second training slot blank. In fact, I usually do.
Fair.
All right.
I think you could take offensive push or offensive defensive stance there if you want, or C's if you're running him in some kind of weird list with other characters or something. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
4?
Yeah, I'll side on the 4 train.
I'm going to say 4, and there is literally just one reason why he's not a 5.
All right.
Go for it.
He's not Rex.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only problem I have with Obi-Wan.
Yeah. I think that's fair. He's not Rex, you know. Oh yeah, Rex is so good.
That's it. Otherwise, I think Obi-Wan is like the perfect Force user.
Yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi is a Force user that has a command hand, which is a plus. That's a check in the box.
He has an amazing command hand.
He not only has a command hand, he has an amazing one. His 3-pip is kind of but it's still fine.
Yeah.
His 2-pip and his 1-pip are. His 1-pip's absurd.
Yes.
For a Force user, you use it once you're buried, and he never gets unburied again. That's just how that works. And his 2-pip is, clones don't like to die. Turns out dodge tokens, Serasu Mastery, and Force Barrier, which inevitably goes on Kenobi. It makes it basically your army kind of invulnerable for a turn. Not quite, but it's close. Or it at least makes your opponent's like first 3 or 4 shots basically mean nothing. He also starts the game with keywords, which is kind of nice.
What a novel idea.
Sorry, I'll stop. What else?
Yeah.
Here. So I would like to know, Guardian's kind of a trap. I've been like Soresu Mastery, like.
I was just gonna ask, is like, do you ever use Guardian?
So the answer is yes, you do use Guardian, but you only use Guardian 1 and you spend the dodge token and roll no dice most of the time.
Yeah, otherwise you just want to be rolling your red saves on clones instead of on Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like there are certainly probably times in a game where you want a Guardian 3 if you're like protecting like a box carrier or something like that, and you like the wounds on Kenobi are like less valuable than the wounds on whatever they're shooting at. That generally doesn't happen. So you should just be Guardian 1 with Soresu there.
What about Pierce? Do you just eat the Pierce on the clone instead of rolling a 50-50 on Kenobi?
I think it depends on the clone.
Say it's a phase 2.
Yeah, I'd eat it on the clone. If it was an arc strike, I might eat it on Kenobi.
Okay.
If it was the difference between an arc strike dying and living, I think I'd take the risk on Kenobi.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I put him in at 4 because of that critical 2 with the impact 2. Like in this meta that where we're gonna see a lot more vehicles now with the party bus and the lat, like having critical 2 impact 2 is not bad.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, I definitely wish it was Surge Crit, but critical 2 is almost as good.
Yeah, it's practically the same thing most of the time.
Yeah.
And you can give him tenacity too if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Which I would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I would.
I mean, if we're talking about his upgrade slots, I definitely think it's like tenacity or seize. So I actually think there's 3 options here. There's tenacity, seize the initiative if you're like running him with Anakin or something, again, gimmicky list. But I also think offensive defensive stance isn't terrible here. Just keep it on defensive stance. He takes the dodge action early in the game, generally a couple times, so getting an extra dodge token out of it isn't the worst.
You put
what about
grappling hooks? I'm sorry, Kyle.
Oh, sorry. No, you.
I was gonna say you put grappling hooks on him.
Well, he doesn't have a gear slot.
Oh, right. He has the command slot. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's right here.
He just pointed at it. Thanks, Mike. For some reason, I was thinking he had a gear slot, and I didn't even see it. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
You're good. You're good.
My bad.
So I think his force slots are a little weird. You still have to take force push.
Yes.
It's kind of, you look at it and you're like, he's got 2 force slots. I really want reflexes and I want force barrier, but you really cannot have both. I think it's force push, force barrier. It used to be force reflexes instead of barrier, but I think barrier is just better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, barrier, you're saving 2 hits. Reflexes with Soresu, you're saving 1, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it'd be one thing if like he didn't get dodge tokens otherwise, but he gets so many dodge tokens from so many other things that for his own purposes, that it's not super critical to have reflexes there.
Well, and like from my view, like what you guys have said, force barrier before on different force users, like maybe, but this one I'm like, no, he's going to be with everybody. So yeah, this absolutely makes sense here, And
you're shaving hits off clones, so
right, even better.
Valuable thing, yeah.
Try and force barrier sniper shots if you can. That's like what you want to be force barriering with Kenobi, because taking a pierce shot off the table against clones is pretty devastating. So do that. What else? Command slot.
Yeah, not gear.
Aggressive tactics.
It's aggressive tactics always.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah. It's the end of the episode, everybody.
All right.
Well,
It's like
end of story, I
11:15.
guess.
I got like an hour drive home.
All right.
See you later.
See ya.
kids.
Mike said end of story. I don't
Well,
know.
for fun, let's do sort of a recap via just
Yeah.
ranking every, because this is a hot takes episode. Let's rank them all
right.
in order from top to bottom. And let's do within faction context, because we're not in a world where you can take, Jedi Luke in a different faction or whatever.
Right.
So
Maybe we should be.
So you just rank. You want to start with lowest and go to highest, or highest to lowest?
let's just go highest to lowest.
OP Luke.
And are we doing this one by one? How are we doing this?
I don't know. I guess we didn't really. I thought there'd be some consensus on this. Maybe there isn't. And there's already not, because I would have said Maul, then OP.
Yeah, I would have said Maul too.
Well, OP Luke is my number one, and then Maul.
All right.
Here's why. Because I think maybe when more stuff comes out for droids, I think that Maul maybe takes that spot. But I think OP Luke has a lot of other support around him, and you can do a lot of other different things within Rebels list that just make it just more Swiss Army knife in my head, where it like with the party bus now, or Tauntauns, or Wookiees, like look at all my options, right? Like for different types of lists. So I put him at number one for all the support characters around him.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would put Dooku. I think it's 2.
Over Jedi Luke.
Yeah, I think so. Just surely from a supporting cast.
Yeah, that's fair.
Role.
I can see that.
I just, not that Luke's cast is bad, but it's not great. It's like, it's not like I'm never excited about the things I'm taking with Luke. Whereas like in the Separatist list, I'm like, ooh, I can take some B2s, like no biggie,
Yeah.
I guess.
I don't know.
I find like, and again, I think it's because of everything that's out, right? Like, I think you can also, this isn't competitive, but you could potentially take a 4-character list with OP. Like, there's different things you can do. I don't know. There's a lot of lists you could build around OP Luke that makes it.
Yeah. I mean, you can take competitive 3-character lists with OP Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually think we've kind of settled on a top 3, which is some combination of Maul, Jedi Luke, and Dooku.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a tier, for those that play fantasy football. That's a tier. And then below that, you've got, I think, Obi-Wan and then Palpatine.
Maybe OP Vader
and Commander Luke.
I would. So if we were gonna go in tiers, I think your first tier is fine. I'd call that S tier.
Yeah. Okay.
I think your A tier is Commander Luke, Kenobi.
Okay, not Palpatine.
And I think it stops there.
Okay.
I think your B tier.
I agree with you, but I also put OP Vader in there.
I don't think you can put any of the Imperial commanders anywhere towards Force users in here, just because Stormtroopers are bad.
Yep, that's fair.
I wish they weren't, but
So then, no, that's fair. So then B tier is Palpatine and Operative Vader.
Palpatine, Op Vader, Commander Vader's in the F tier. Is that everybody? Oh, I think no. Anakin's in like super F tier. Anakin's the worst by far. That would be my tier system.
Yeah, I mean clearly I disagree with the OP Vader, but the other ones I agree with, and then Commander Vader and Anakin are somewhere just not usable.
I think the Imperial Force users definitely could like slide up the list if like Empire supporting structure was in any way, shape, or form good right now, and it just.
I mean, if you're talking about in a vacuum, I think Palpatine is in the S tier.
Yeah, I totally. Yeah. But I definitely think that it's tough to rank them anywhere highly. Like, if in the competitive meta right now, nobody's touching Imperial Force users.
No.
I mean, every other Force user, including Anakin, who's like super dumpster tier, is being played. But the Imperial Force users are not. So maybe use that information however you will.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, you guys got any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Force users. 2 episodes, everybody. There you go.
So at the end of the day, the lesson that I hope I taught everyone is play Clone Captain Rex.
I mean, if you're playing clones, I think that's the lesson. I think if you're playing rebels or droids, like Jedi Luke and or Dooku and or Maul belong in competitive lists.
Yeah. And for those Empire players, I highly encourage you checking out Callus OP Vader. I think there's something there.
I mean, it's a list. I think it's probably the best Force user list that is available to the Empire right now.
So if you really want to play Vader, you really want to get him on the table, go get Callus. Play.
Yeah.
Do some theory crafting with that. I think that's going to be your best options.
Yeah, Operative Vader.
Operative Vader, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Mike.
And I'm tired.
I'd say stay fresh cheese bags, but maybe just like
go to sleep cheese bags.
Go to sleep, yeah.
There you go.